Zen and the Art of Remaining Awake, Part 6, the 2nd of January 2021. Under bright twinkling stars, the Cotswolds froze again last night. Through a gap in the curtains, I spy lengthening icicles. Every puddle, every bowl of water left out for wild animals will have frozen solid. Fortunately, I'm safe within 4 walls, with a roof over my head and a duvet in which to burrow, but no matter which way I twist or turn, I can't find shanty, the peace that passes understanding. Yet I'm reluctant to leave my bed, even though I recall how personally Marcus Aurelius addressed me on this very issue when I read him last night. In the morning, when it's hard to get up, dwell on this thought: I am rising to the work of a human being. Why am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the thing for which I exist and for which I was born? Or was I made in order to hide in my bedclothes and keep warm? True, it's pleasant enough, but is this why you were born? In short, to be coddled? Or were you born to exert yourself? I exert myself. I reach out from my warm cocoon, locate my radio and tune in to Radio 4's Saturday Live. To hear an animated voice with an exotic accent extolling the virtues of cold water swimming.
My friends, believe me, a cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
It's Wim Hof, Holland's Iceman. Hof is an extreme athlete, noted for his ability to endure low temperatures. He holds records for the longest ice bath, for swimming under ice floes, and for running barefoot half marathons over snow. I too once evangelized about the therapeutic benefits of wild water swimming. This was decades ago, when my children were young and my parents lived in Millpool Cottage, a cottage bordering the Waveney, a weeping willowed waterway that distinguishes Suffolk from Norfolk. During Christmas holidays I would seek the river's embrace and, in order to encourage others, inaugurated the Ice Pool Club. As winter fringed the river with a crisp necklace of ice, members were required to submerge, at least up to their necks. Then it was a hop, skip and jump to the bathroom, where a tub of warm water and mugs of hot chocolate were waiting. Golden days on which I've turned my back. And I've no excuse. There's a lake just a bike ride from this bed. While washing, I spray my feet with cold water for fully 10 seconds. It's a start. With the temperature outside still hovering near freezing point, why not enjoy a hot shower? What can be more comforting? Except for that faint scent of coconut. Yes, I can still smell. I've dodged the virus. But survival is not enough. Glancing down, I note that my stomach is beginning to eclipse my feet, and I wonder whether lockdown is turning me into a slob. There, I've said it, the S word. At the Hay Literary Festival one year, in a marquee filled mainly with women, I heard the psychotherapist Susie Orbach lecture on her book Fat is a Feminist Issue. It is indeed. But health equally concerns men, particularly during a pandemic, when being overweight is a recognized risk factor. Which makes fat a moral issue too, for is it not incumbent on everyone to play their part, however small, to support the front-line doctors and nurses? How can I castigate Trump or Johnson for not taking their responsibilities seriously if I am not doing all I can to ward off becoming another COVID statistic. I've attended enough performances of J.B. Priestley's and Inspector Calls to have heard his mysterious police inspector's dire warning, a warning she issues quietly at first, but which builds to an apocalyptic climax.
We don't live alone. We are members of one body. We are responsible for each other. And I tell you that the time will soon come when if men will not learn that lesson, then they will be taught it in fire and blood and anguish.
At Cardiff University, when I met my wife, I weighed 73 kilos. 4 decades and 4 grandchildren later, I weigh in around 82 kilos. No wonder my knees protest when I break into a run. I splash my muesli with oat milk, Radio 4 keeping me company. The Iceman has made way for Hugh Fernley Whittingstall, who is promoting his new book, Eat Better Forever. The man is passionate, and 30 years of research have enabled him to talk with authority. He points out that the food we eat is the single most important factor influencing our well-being. Knowing that to be true, and that obesity costs the NHS over £6 billion annually, why doesn't Matt Hancock, the Secretary of State for Health, or Gavin Williamson, the Secretary of State for Education, mandate that Eat Better Forever be adopted as a class reader in every secondary school in the land? In this week's New Scientist, the anthropologist Herman Ponsner has drawn up a list of 7 myths concerning our metabolism.
1. Exercise burns through calories and boosts your metabolism. 2. Exercise will make you lose weight. 3. Your workout program isn't succeeding unless you're losing weight. 4. Calories don't matter, so there's no need to count them. 5. Humans evolved to eat a paleo diet. 6. A slow metabolism dooms you to obesity. 7. Obesity and weight gain are a sign of personal failure.
Personal experience tells me this list is debatable. Surely exercise can help you lose weight. In 2017, in the course of a 300-mile walk in Norway, a 3-week pilgrimage, I lost 8 kilos. However, I applaud Ponsner for exposing that final myth, that weight gain is a sign of personal failure. Governments and individuals must awaken to the cynicism of global conglomerates who pump billions into advertising junk food. Such conglomerates have long understood that sensual, ultra-processed foods, laden with added salts and oils, are oral symphonies that overwhelm our Paleolithic brains. This is comically demonstrated by Michael Beard, the hero of Ian McEwan's comic masterpiece, Solar. Beard, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, who, though desperately unhappy that he's 35 pounds overweight, can't resist
a plastic foil bag of finely sliced potatoes, boiled in oil and dusted in salt, industrialized powdered foodstuff, preservatives, hydrolyzing and raising agents, acidity regulators, and colouring.
Despite his extraordinary intellect and the countless resolutions he has made, Beard succumbs to
a 30 grams bag of salt and vinegar crisps, a drug dealer's measure.
In 1965, Britain's answer to Bob Dylan, Donovan, a friend of the Beatles and a man who claims to have coined the hippie concept of flower power, wrote, "The war drags on." He was protesting against the abomination that was the Vietnam War. Back then, as today, drug raids were always on the news, not swoops on crisp factories, but raids uncovering hashish or cocaine or LSD. The Vietnam War is, mercifully, long over. But the war Nixon initiated against drugs continues. The war indeed drags on. As a boomer who lived through the 1960s, it is incumbent on me to return to and address this issue. But first, I must respond to an email from my sister, a torrent of agony that conjures Edward Munch's Scream.
I wake, and then the cascade begins. COVID, climate change, the plight of the Uyghurs, my carbon footprint, oceans awash with plastic, whales stranded on beaches, a world where 70 million Americans believe Trump is their saviour, transhumanism, Brexit, cryptocurrencies wolfing vast quantities of energy, fires in Australia, California, Scandinavia, trucks ploughing through pedestrians on purpose, explosions in concert halls, shootings in synagogues, mosques and LGBTQ+ bars, the explosion of online pornography and ever-climbing rape figures, child abuse and slavery, rising sea levels, melting ice caps, the torture of citizens seeking basic human rights, AI robotics replacing humans, overpopulation, billions of unnecessary journeys and wasted fossil fuel, and 24/7 coverage of all of the above from a plethora of media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, podcasts, petitions, blogs, and all punctuated by inane, mindless commercials.
My sister then goes on to suggest that a function of autism is to protect sensitive individuals from such hideous realities, and her notion triggers an old memory. I had been teaching in a Rudolf Steiner special needs schools for maybe 10 years when I made an elementary mistake. Let's call the student in question Rob, for fate had indeed robbed him of the kind of childhood all children deserve. Picture dishevelled brown hair, brown eyes and a nervous, endearing smile. His statement of special educational needs informs you that, in addition to suffering severe neglect in his early years, he ticks most of the boxes on that forever shifting scale, the autistic spectrum. Rob is convinced that joy, that sense of belonging for which he craves, is just around the next corner, marginally out of sight. His sense of exclusion from paradise is so extreme that it's impossible for him to stay in any room, let alone a classroom, for any length of time. For months he has roamed the school grounds, trying to evade the rota of adults who have the unenviable task of keeping him in sight. The school enjoys fine views across a wooded valley to distant hills, and, on occasions, Rob has accompanied my small class of students when we have explored that valley. Our goal has always been a pond in the heart of the woods, where we have watched frogs spawn, dragonflies dither, and tadpoles grow tiny limbs. One day a new principal informs me that Rob's roaming must end. He must join a class, and that class will be mine. I'm uneasy. I've finally managed to shape my very disparate students into a coherent whole. Rob, I point out, might jeopardize all I've achieved, but the principle is resolute. The experiment, which will start tomorrow, on Friday, must and will succeed. But I'm told it will only succeed if I demonstrate that my will is stronger than Rob's. The boy needs boundaries. He's been left to roam for far too long. I protest no more. I give in. That is my first mistake. At the end of the day, I make my second mistake. All week our main lesson topic has been science, specifically the water cycle. Suddenly I feel discontent with a board drawing that has stood me in good stead since Monday. So I select some brown, grey and white chalks and add a distant factory chimney to my board diagram of nature's means of distributing rain. In the distance, the sea is evaporating. Overhead clouds carry water vapour, till there's precipitation, the release of rain over land. In the foreground, I add a church wall and a gargoyle, its features melted by acid rain. I add some recognisable features, the common, the school, limestone walls, cottages, grazing cattle, the path to the woods and the woodland pond, which is presented up close, alive with tadpoles and reeds and dragonflies. It's the wrong way to introduce the topic of acid rain to an autistic and highly imaginative child. At first all goes well. Rob comes in alone. The principal reassures him at the door that he has no longer any need for one-to-one support, that he's moving on. He's now part of a class. Rob sits down. He rests his arm on his desk and pillows his head. Resigned, he sighs wearily. No, he tells me, he isn't interested in copying the drawing on the board. He wants to be left in peace. If crayons are placed on his desk, he'll knock them off. He wants to listen, which is fine with me, as listening is a skill few have developed, let alone mastered. It was Jiddu Krishnamurti, during a lecture delivered in Madras in 1976, who stressed the importance of mastering the art of listening. Krishnamurti was the man who, in 1909, was hailed by the Theosophical Society as the long-prophesied world teacher, or Christ returned, something which so troubled Rudolf Steiner that he left the society and set up on his own. Absolute listening, stressed Krishnamurti, is very difficult for most people. Don't resist, but listen with your heart. Listen to the words, the meaning of the words, and the significance behind the words, and thereby have an insight into what is really being said. If Rob wants to hone his listening skills, who am I to object? Additionally, it would be good role modelling for him to hear me elicit answers from my other 6 pupils. So I begin. What conditions are required for evaporation? What causes condensation? What triggers rainfall? What are the benefits of the water cycle? Then a question I hope Rob might be tempted to answer. Can anyone name any canyons that may have been carved by grand and mighty rivers? Rob sits up, his eyes bright as drawing pins.
The acid eats stone.
Well, not eats, more dissolves, especially the limestone because of its calcium carbonate content. Well listened, Rob, it's a chemical reaction. Brilliant, well done. But Rob's eyes are pinned to the door.
If it can dissolve stone, it'll fuck up the tadpoles. We've got to save them.
I reach the door first.
Move, you fucking bastard! I'll fucking kick you!
Please, Rob, take a breath, calm down. But Rob's having none of it. He calls for backup.
Come on, you lot! Let's save them!
Joan of Arc couldn't have rallied French peasants more fervently.
Come on! The fuck are you doing? Let's fucking save them!
Rob tries to push and drag me away, but I hold his gaze and summon my superior willpower. I won't be budged. Please, Rob, just sit down. Realising he can't get through me, Rob retreats to the back of the class, grabs a chair and smashes it against a window. Reinforced, the glass fragments into diamond lozenges, but holds. He swings again, more fragments, more lozenges. but still no way out. The room has a high ceiling, a skylight. Rob heaves a table to the centre of the room, grabs a chair and lifts it onto the table. Until now, the rest of the class have remained passive observers, but Rob's cry, "We must save them!" is sinking in, and others now rise to help him save the planet. As I step forward to restore law and order, my arms are grabbed and I'm pulled to the floor, and by the time I've scrambled back to my feet, all my students have escaped from the building and are sprinting after Rob towards the woods. I finally catch up with them by the pond, a solemn assembly, searching for signs of aquatic life. My son, Ollie, zooms from Sacramento. He's home after another shift on a COVID ward, and though he's showered in the hospital, he plans to do so again while the children are sleeping. He has seen what the virus can do. I ask him if he prefers to talk tomorrow. No, it's fine. What's up? Quite a lot, actually. We're watching Georgia. The Peach State? It's absurd, Dad, but the fate of the planet hangs on the votes of 7.5 million Georgians. If the Republicans win, we're fucked. I love it when Ollie gets angry. Gentle souls should get angry. The evil of the Republican position on climate science, he added, is widely recognised. And if they hang on to the Senate, then Biden can't reverse Trump's policies. Not good parenting, perhaps, for I hear myself say, I've read that Trump's gaining another 55,000 Twitter followers every day. 55,000. But Dad, they're not necessarily MAGA fans. I follow him myself. You should dip into the Twitter sphere. It keeps you informed, and it's important to know your enemy. Okay, maybe you're right. You don't sound convinced. Name someone you admire. What about Navalny, I suggest. Fine, good choice. Join his Twitter account. See what he's up to. But he's in prison. Surely he can't contact his followers. Find out, Dad. The world's far weirder than you think. Ollie's right. The world is far weirder than any of us can possibly imagine. Eratosthenes of Cyrene was the first human being that we know of to calculate our planet's circumference, some 200 years before Christ. Could you, with all the knowledge you have accrued, achieve such a feat? In addition to being a mathematician, the man was also a geographer, an astronomer, a poet, a music theorist, and a librarian, indeed the chief librarian of the great library of Alexandria, at a time when that city was regarded as the capital of knowledge and learning in the ancient world. According to any definition of the word, Eratosthenes was a genius. Yet Trump calls himself a genius. How debased the English language has become. It's tragic that men like Trump and Putin have such inflated opinions of themselves, while others, like George Orwell, devalue their contribution to humanity. Orwell, the most significant political author and journalist of the 20th century, destroyed early manuscripts because a handful of readers hadn't appreciated them. And when he finally published his first book, Down and Out in Paris and London, he demanded a pseudonym because, he explained, he wasn't proud of Eric Blair. That is to say, he wasn't proud of himself. A rapturous self-aggrandizement and quasi-religious fervour permeates Trump's rallies, an almost sexual rapture that I've seen before on old black and white film, a euphoria noted in Henry Channon's diary, in his entry for the 6th of August 1936. Channon was a Tory MP who happened to be attending the Berlin Olympics. His entry reads to the moment Hitler entered the stadium. He looks exactly like his caricatures. Brown uniform, short Charlie Chaplin moustache and square stocky figure. Determined but not grim. He salutes the cheering thousands and sits down, and one feels one is in the presence of a semi-divine creature. I am more thrilled than when I met Mussolini in Perugia, and even more stimulated than when I was blessed by the Pope. Before bed, I dip into the Independent and learn what the BBC should have told me, that in South Sudan 1 million people have been displaced by the worst floods in living memory, and that with the rainy season about to start, conditions can only get worse. Another story informs me of the discovery of an entirely new population of blue whales in the Indian Ocean. As these are the largest creatures to have ever existed, the news is comforting, even exhilarating. Yes, indeed. The world is weirder than I can think. As I drift off to sleep, I recall Marcus Aurelius's words, penned some 2,000 years ago. You are an old man, no longer a slave to be drawn by strings like a puppet. No longer be either dissatisfied with your lot, nor shrink from your future.